of our show says it all. For the Red Sox, 2016 will be a matter of regaining respect. Hello, everybody. Tom Lydon, Butch Stearns with you. And Butch, for the first time since 1930, this squad is coming off back-to-back last-place finishes in the division.
I really only have one question about this entire season. Are they going to ruin our summer? Are they going to compete? Or are they going to repeat a last-place finish like the last 3 seasons? It's been feast or famine.
It's amazing how much their performance does really define a summer in New England. Last season, a disaster that went off the rails in late April, early May, and never recovered in time for the Sox to make any realistic push to compete in the American League East. And while they were struggling, the Blue Jays were surging, the Yankees were back in the playoffs, and Boston dealt with a manager on the hot seat who then had to fight cancer, the firing of a general manager, the resignation of the team president, and above all else, the underperformance of highly paid players like Hanley Ramirez, Pablo Sandoval, and Rick Porcello. You had to relive it, sorry.
Well, and Tom, when you look at the last 3 seasons, a couple of things come to mind. John Farrell has been the manager for all 3 of these years. And, of course, Torey Lovullo finished last year in charge while Farrell battled cancer. The other big factor has been pitching. Red Sox pitching has been horrible for 2 seasons, especially their starting pitching.
Which leads to the biggest key to this year's expected turnaround, not only establishing a new foundation in the front office, it's fortifying the starting rotation. No more of this nonsense about having 5 aces. This team has 1 ace, and he is getting paid $217 million over the next 7 years. David Price, he shoulders the pressure. He accepts the responsibility, and he knows that his outings are expected to steady the ship.
David Price at the front, Craig Kimbrell in the back. Dave Dombrowski may someday regret trading 4 prospects for Kimbrell. But by the time Javier Guerra or Manuel Margot become major leaguers, if they ever do, Kimbrell should have 80 or more saves in a Red Sox uniform by then. Kimbrell, Koji, and Carson Smith should make for a great bullpen, but not exactly to start the season, Tom.
Yeah, during spring training, where we've witnessed more uncertainty than we'd like, the injury to Carson Smith certainly doesn't bode well for the bullpen. Smith was acquired from the Mariners to provide some insulation for the late innings before you get to Koji and Kimbrell, a counterpunch to Junichi Tsuzawa, but he'll have to recover from that strained flexor in his forearm. He's going to start the year on the DL, and we will go from there. So it's really tough to quantify exactly what he can do without seeing him in regular season action, so even harder to even know just how significant his absence will be. However, we do know how significant another guy on this roster always is.
Interesting word you chose, because David Ortiz is the most significant player in Red Sox history. That's what WEEI.com's Rob Bradford wrote, and it's hard to argue with him. You know, you can bring up Ted Williams, Yaz, and others and debate that statement, but when it comes to Ortiz's legacy in Boston, there's not much more he needs to accomplish. The big question for his 14th season in Beantown and 20th season overall is what effect the Poppy Farewell Tour will have on this team. Could it be a distraction? Sure. But it could also serve as a rallying cry. Win one more for Poppy. One thing is certain, the Ortiz Farewell Tour will be a season-long story, and it starts right away with the opening series, because that is the Red Sox last trip to Cleveland this entire year.
Yeah, you know, Tito's going to give him a big tip of the cap. And, you know, this is going to go one of 2 ways. He's either going to play well, and it's not going to be a distraction, or he's going to struggle, and it's going to be a huge distraction, unless someone else steps up and starts carrying the offensive load. And sure, Pablo Sandoval, Hanley Ramirez are supposed to be those guys, but the question is, will they be those guys this year?
Let's welcome in the third member of our team. She's Courtney Fallon. Courtney, you've got some thoughts on the Red Sox offense and the future of this team, and it's also tied directly to Ortiz, isn't it?
That is exactly right, Butch. The Red Sox best players right now just might be their youngest ones. And when you listen to them talk, it's pretty clear they have been soaking in as much baseball knowledge as they can from the Red Sox oldest player. Yes, David Ortiz might be saying goodbye, but his legacy already lives on with this team.
When I see guys like Bogart, Mookie Betts, they watch the older player, because that's how they learn. That's how this game goes.
David Ortiz may be on the way out, but the future of the Red Sox lies in what Poppy has left behind. Betts, Bogarts, Bradley Jr., Swihart, Vasquez, and Travis Shaw. These young guns are still developing, but they have learned their lessons well.
Last year was big. I mean, me being on deck or being behind him for the last month and a half of the season, anytime there was a pitching change and we're kind of both out there on deck together, I would kind of rack his brain on what he was thinking.
Just him being on deck, sometimes he sees stuff during an at-bat. He will like whistle to me or tell me, hey, you're doing this, you're doing that, be aware of this pitch.
I was the guy that when I was younger, I asked a lot of questions. I was like Mookie Betts. He wore me out asking me questions.
He's been around for as long as I've been alive. You know, so pretty sure he's got a bunch of insight for me, and I don't mind asking any questions at all.
Mookie and Xander are clearly at the head of this class with what they've accomplished so far. But part of what makes them special is they still feel like they have a lot to prove.
It's the main thing, not take anything for granted. I still want to go out and make sure we get up some W's and whatnot and get better at the same time.
Just trying to become the best. I mean, that's definitely the motivation you need to become the best at whatever you do. You have to work towards that. You can't just wake up and be like, hey, I'm the best. No, you have to work towards that, be consistent, as you said, and hopefully good things happen,
Butch, you and I were down in Florida. Courtney, you just mentioned it in your intro. The young players, I was kind of stunned when John Farrell said this, are the best players on the team. So he's leaning on those guys to play well.
I think it's really a perfect example of old-timers baseball. The pastime has not been lost with this Red Sox team because it's a traditional old players teaching young guys and them acting like a sponge. They're listening, they're learning, and they're acting. And Xander Bogaerts and Mookie Betts, you could have this conversation on who's better, who's going to have a better. I think we're just happy that both of them are on the Red Sox and on the Red Sox for years to come.
It's a great point. I mean, this has been going on since baseball began, and those guys, Tom, we saw it firsthand. They are sponges. They are taking their lessons and learning them well.
And it's really a big reason why I still, at this point of the season, consider them untouchable. I don't care who comes knocking on your door. These are two guys that you hang on to. You don't get rid of Mookie.
For Chris
you don't get rid of Xander. Not yet.
No, not yet.
It's going to take more. Wow, I can't believe I went on record saying that. I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. All right, well, we've talked about Mookie and Xander, and Rusney and JBJ are two other guys that we're going to keep our eyes on, too. But what about the big money guys? After a quick break, the latest on Hanley Ramirez and Pablo Sandoval. Together, they're going to make more than $40 million this year, but will they earn it? Plus, Butch with David Price, what you need to know as the season approaches. Regaining Respect continues right after this.
Fox 25 spring training coverage is brought to you by the Braintree Brewhouse, food, fun, drinks, and the famous alumni pizza.
In fact, Thursday night, April 7th, join us at the Braintree Brewhouse for a live webcast. All the latest on the Sox as the home opener approaches. Laid-back environment. We're going to take some questions. We'll cover all the bases, and then maybe, yes, we will even have one of those world-famous alumni pizzas. That's 7 to 8 p.m. on Thursday, April 7th. The David Ortiz Farewell Tour is off and running, entering his 13th and final year with the Bo Sox. Big Papi's going to see a lot of this throughout the spring, summer, and early fall. Right before his final spring training game at JetBlue Park, Ortiz was warmly greeted. They renamed a street for him in Fort Myers. He also got his own pair of stadium seats. The baselines were adorned with the number 34, which was oh so fitting. And when he was done after the 6th inning of this game, Jim Rice and Louis Tiant swooped in on a golf cart. A customized golf cart for David Ortiz and drove him out of the ballpark. A little over the top, but get used to it.
I'm not going to miss spring training much. I'm not a big fan of spring training anymore, but I really like Fort Myers. Fort Myers is a very peaceful place. I've been coming to Fort Myers since '97. It was good to stick around the same spot.
Big Papi has delivered in the biggest of moments for the Red Sox, and the torch has to be passed on. As we discussed in the last segment, Mookie has to hit, Xander has to hit, the same with JBJ and eventually Rusney Castillo. The pressure, though, falls more squarely on the broad shoulders of Pablo Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez. Two big contracts for what's expected to be two big bats. But will we see it in 2016? 29 home runs, 37 doubles, 100 RBIs. Not a bad season stat line for one guy. In 2015, that was the stat line for Hanley and Pablo combined. $37,350,000 for one guy's worth of production. That's got to change.
Bad moments, For me, bad moments, Like I say, it's up and downs and during the season, but you have to prepare yourself, put your mind in the right spot to be better.
Hanley's defense will be what it will be. And frankly, so far, he's looked better at first than many expected. But the bat, which floundered after a shoulder injury in early May, must regain form.
Shoulder first good, and I think it's going to be different, and we just got to get a good start, and, winning many games we can early.
Pablo came to camp overweight, but apparently under-scrutinized by management.
Came in with a body fat ratio of 17%. Substantially down from last year. That's what we were looking for.
Believe it if you want, but shaky D, an overweight frame, and now an injury, that doesn't help the Pandas' cause.
I don't worry about numbers. Worry about wins. You can see all the years that a number went down, how many championships that I got. So that's what I worry.
So if it's not going to be Pablo, who's it going to be? If there's any positive from Florida this spring, it's the consistent play of Travis Shaw. He's got a shot to play at first base and third base. Bottom line in baseball, if your bat is hot, it has to be in the lineup. And with the up-and-down nature of Hanley and Pablo, it is reasonable to think that Shaw will get enough at-bats to make a significant difference in the Boston lineup. Butch?
Let's talk about David Price. He's clearly the biggest addition to the Red Sox. But will he make a big difference? He better. Sox spent $217 million to get him. But that's the going price for an ace these days. And make no mistake about it, David Price is an ace in every sense of the word, both on and off the field.
I want to win games. I want to be here. I think I chose Boston because, they have winning in their past. They've done it here recently as well, and I really think that they're going to do it in the future.
The future is now for David Price and the Red Sox. This team now has an ace, and David Price has the resume to back it up.
He's got, I think, a pretty stellar track record in all phases of what's expected of a major league pitcher, and particularly a number one starter.
The best starters in the American League: Felix Hernandez, Chris Sale, Corey Kluber, Sonny Gray, Dallas Keuchel. Price is as good or better than all of them, and he has the numbers to prove it. But Price is about more than just numbers. He's about being a great teammate, and here's what he wants his new teammates to know about him.
I'm available. I'm there. I'm here to help these guys in any way possible. It goes a lot further than what you just do on the baseball field.
Price's former teammate Rick Porcello couldn't be more excited about being reunited with Price again.
He's awesome. I'm not just saying that because it's the company line. I was jumping up and down. I mean, he's tremendous on and off the field.
He's there for everybody. He treats everybody the same, and he's always got everyone's back.
What do you like about him as a teammate so far?
The best. He's laughing every time, so good teammates. I heard. I talked to Jose. He caught him in Tampa. They tell me he's the best teammate.
Competitor, teammate. Like I said, he's really good at what he does. So we got a lot better in one day.
So how much better did the Red Sox get with the addition of just this one guy? Price believes leadership will lead to winning, and he knows his place.
I will be there for my teammates, and I think that's what an ace is. You're not going to shy away from the big game. You want the ball. I want to be a leader.
They brought him in to try to win a championship here, and in my case, I'm going to be his number one supporter. We need an ace. We need a guy that the rest of the starting rotation feel shoulder with, and he's the perfect guy.
Well, we'll see if he's the perfect guy, but clearly he's had an impact on this team already.
I just did the mental research. He's been on 4 teams in 20 months. And one thing you got to keep in mind with David Price as the season begins, he's typically a slow starter. Throughout his career, he heats up throughout the season. Now, we can talk about his postseason struggles, but generally speaking, it isn't really until May and June that we see David Price at his peak.
Little perspective on the slow starter. He's 16-10 in the month of April with an ERA under 4. It's his worst month ERA-wise, but Tom, that's better than anything the Red Sox have, and probably the best ace in the division.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. What I'm curious to see also is how he's going to handle the big market criticism. This is not Tampa. This is not Detroit. This is not Toronto. He's very interactive with the fans, and that's a good thing, but there will be times where he's going to want to shut off his Twitter stream.
It's a legitimate question, but I think he's well equipped to do that. I think he knew that coming in. $217 million helps, but you're right. We'll see how he responds to it.
All right, so after Price, where does this team go, and will it be enough? The concerns are obvious. This is not the Mets starting rotation. Will Clay stay healthy? Will we see the Joe Kelly from August and September, or the Joe Kelly from the beginning of last season?
Same question about Rick Porcello. He ended last season strong. Stephen Wright will be the 5th starter with Eddie Rodriguez, of course, starting on the disabled list.
What we're seeing in spring training is that we're going to go with Elias, even though you're just going to go Ronis. Right? I'll go Elias for now. He needs to be a starter. So, or that he needs to adjust to life in the bullpen. Whereas Stephen Wright, he could be a little bit more flexible in that regard. Throwing a knuckler, he can be a starter, he can be a reliever.
Yeah, and stay with us, more to come. We haven't touched on the catchers yet. That's a position where the Sox are dealing from strength, in my opinion.
Yes, plus the voice of Red Sox Review, WEEI's Mike Mutnansky, takes your calls after every game. Tonight, he is sharing his thoughts on the team he covers every day. Stay with us. Regaining Respect, back right after this.
I'm Butch Stearns. Welcome back to our 2016 Red Sox preview special. Hey, what is this team's strongest position? It just might be catcher. Two of the best young catching prospects in the game, a veteran backup who's viewed as much more than that. You know, even with Christian Vasquez coming back from Tommy John surgery, the Red Sox head into 2016 deeper behind the plate than most teams in baseball. 3 guys for just 2 positions. This is a good problem to have.
You always see them together. They're always working. They're always having a good time. And, I mean, I've had a chance to throw to all 3 of them. They're all extremely good at what they do. You know, they all can catch pitches, frame pitches extremely well, you know, throw the bases. So it's a good problem to have.
Blake Swihart, Christian Vasquez, and Ryan Hannigan. Let's start at the back. It's no insult to call Hannigan a backup. That's what he's been most of his career. But his manager sees Ryan a little differently.
The thing about Hanny is that, you know, you look at quote-unquote backup catchers, and it's the day game after night game. He's much more than that. I mean, if someone were to go down, as we've seen in the past, he's a guy that can step in and catch every day for a period of time. So he's far beyond what the traditional backup would be.
Most teams are lucky if they have 1 good catching prospect. This team has 2, with Swihart and Vasquez.
You look around the game, I think there's a lot of organizations that are looking for the type of players both guys are. We're in a good position when those 2 guys are healthy and playing to their capabilities.
If Vasquez stays healthy, these 2 should compete all year long for who's number 1. But they don't see it like that.
Like I said, he and I, we've never had anything against each other. We've always just tried to help each other, been there for each other. Even in the minor leagues, we were always feeding off each other.
I feel good, you know, to see him doing good. So I'm here for everybody, you know. I feel I'm a good teammate.
And no knock on Swihart defensively, but Vasquez is a guy his pitching teammates love throwing to.
We missed Vasquez last year. The vast majority of his game behind the plate is his game calling, his pitch sequences, blocking the ball defensively, and obviously his arm. He's makes you not. You don't have to go out there thinking about the runners on base when you have somebody behind the plate like that.
I tell him every day, just I look at him, I go, wow. You know, he knows what I'm talking about. You know, he's got that knack behind the plate. He's good back there. He's just, you know, his body placement. You know, he's very quiet. He makes every pitch look good.
Red Sox catching, a good problem to have.
Time now to chat with the guy who you hear on the radio a lot, Mike Mednansky from WEEI. He's on the pre- and post-game shows every time you're listening to the Red Sox on the radio. Great to have you here. Thanks for coming
here, Tom. Thank you. Baseball season. Let's go.
It is here, and this is your time of year, and we've talked about a lot during this half hour, but there are a couple issues that we haven't talked about that I'd like to get your opinion on.
Sure.
Most notably, what are we going to expect from JBJ? And if not immediately throughout the season, what do you expect from Rusney Castillo?
Well, I'll start with the biggest known of those 2 guys. That's Jackie Bradley Jr.'s defense. This guy got robbed of the Gold Glove last year, played spectacular defense, the best center fielder I've seen in my Red Sox fan. I'm living around here working with the team. I know he's going to play great defense. Offensively, I think he's still a major question mark because spring training's been very good to him, 3 home runs. But right now, offensively, he is still spring training Jackie and regular season Jackie. So I don't know offensively, your guess is as good as mine, but defensively, he's going to be great in center field. Rusney.
Yeah, you know, you see the pictures of the 3 of them together, and you just have visions of this is going to be the Red Sox outfield for a long time, but I don't necessarily feel that way immediately.
I think Jackie Bradley Jr. has a chance to be here for a long time. I have no clue about Rusney. This guy got here, played a year and a half, and if you ask me right now, walk the street, Mike, what's the best thing he does? I really don't know. Okay, here's what he does. He looks great in a baseball uniform. On the field, though, as a baseball player, doesn't seem to have the great instincts, not great power, speed's okay, good arm. But for $72 million, $72.5 million, that's not enough skill. So I think Jackie Bradley Jr. here long-term defensively, Rusney's got a lot to prove. I don't know what he is.
You know, Butch and Courtney and I were talking earlier about who you might move. I said don't move Xander or Mookie. I think Rusney might be the kind of guy that if someone's interested in taking him, isn't he a kind of guy you would move at this stage of the game?
I think at this point, he's not shown enough to say he's on the no-touch list. Mookie and Xander, I am not touching. They are here for a long, long time. But if someone came to you and said Rusney Castillo for one of their prospects is not panned out, I would do that deal in a second right now.
We thank Mutt for being here. You can listen to him before and after every single Red Sox game on WEEI. Red Sox Review is a staple on my radio dial as I drive home at 11:30 every night. Thank you very much for coming in.
Tom, great being here. Thank you.
All right. On the other side of the break, we're going to get our predictions. How will this Red Sox team do in 2016? Please stay with us. You're watching Regaining Respect. What a thrill for this crew doing their fantasy baseball draft at the Sheraton Boston. Tim Wakefield crashed the party. That's pretty cool. We had a chance to talk with Wake about his thoughts on this year's team.
I think they look really good this year. I was down there at JetBlue Park a couple times during the spring and was able to work with some of the guys and watch how they are going through with their preparations for the season. And I think if they can stay healthy, they'll be really good. Obviously, David Price, the big addition this year, and Craig Kimbrell, they've really solidified that pitching staff. And obviously, the offense is going to be what it is with Hanley and Pedroia and the three young outfielders there that have really blossomed into great players. So I'm looking forward to the start of the season.
So we're left with just one thing to do, and that's to give our brief prognostications as to what we think is going to happen this summer. Ladies first.
Oh,
right?
ladies first.
Oh, am I taking the floor?
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, my prediction is the Red Sox will win 87 games, finish second in the AL East, take the wild card. Toronto. And I think Mookie Betts will be a dark horse favorite for MVP this season.
I'll go next. She was very precise with 87. I'm not going to give you a number. I don't think Toronto's going to win the AL East. I don't think the Red Sox will either. I think the Yankees will. I think the Red Sox will be in the running for a wild card spot. And they'll probably, since we're giving ballparks, be around 84, 85.
Okay.
Butch?
I'm going to make 3 predictions. They're going to win 92 games and win the division. They're going to start 18-8 and have a great start. They're going to struggle, and Dave Dombrowski's going to make a big move for a 1A pitcher who's not on this team yet. Not Chris Sale, not Sonny Gray, maybe Carlos Carrasco.
And all of that is on tape, so we'll re-rack it when you are correct.
That is very specific, Bush. I'm very impressed.
You know what they say about predictions.
Yes.
For Courtney Fallon, Butch Stearns, our producers Mike Dyer and Chad Amaral, I'm Tom Lydon. The season opener, Monday in Cleveland, the quest to regain respect begins. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, Butch, the Red Sox do not spoil our summer. I don't think they will.